Hey everyone, sorry for the delay. Oh, for the love. Sorry, I have to adjust the camera a few times during this lesson because of the lab. Sorry for the delay. I actually came back from physical therapy kind of late, and because I came back from physical therapy kind of late, I got here late. It looks like I'm gonna have to adjust our lighting, which I'll take care of in a second. But I did want to go over some norms. I'm trying to see what you guys are writing in the chat at the same time. I do want to go over some norms before we get started. First of all, hope you guys had a great evening. Today we're going to be doing the lab for activity 76. Remember, during the course of the chat, there is no inappropriate chats. I don't want to have to block people. So, and I'll mention it a couple of times throughout the stream because there are some people here who are not in yet. But please, no inappropriate chats, and please don't, well, first of all, no insulting people. And don't blow up the whole chat because it's really hard for me to catch questions. I don't mind if you kind of talk to each other a little bit, but it's really hard for me to catch questions. Now, for those of you who saw my Instagram post, today is Honor Your Classrooms That You Missed Day and Wacky Hair Day. So here I am wearing my Burns Pride shirt and, of course, pigtails. Laugh now because you're not going to get to see it again. All right, so I will have to adjust the lighting because it's a little bit off. You guys saw what the lab table looks like already, the lab previously. So this is the data table, and I'm going to go back to the lab, and you guys will watch me do the lab first, and then I will come back with a better view of the data table that you'll be able to see. I know it's at an angle, but that's because I have to adjust the webcam for the setup itself. Before I get started, I just want to answer any questions that you guys have. And first period, please, 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 please check Edsby. I posted something yesterday, and I want to make sure that you guys saw it. And if you did see it, make sure you send me a private message answering that. It's information I really, really need to know today. If I called your house already and spoke to you, you don't have to go ahead and put that information in. But if I did not speak to you or your parents, please send me that information ASAP so that I can take care of some things that the district needs. So I'm going to give you a second while I adjust the lighting to ask any questions that you may have, and then we're going to get started with the lab. Okay, that lighting works better and it's not disrupting the whiteboard too much. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start the lab. I'm going to actually have the camera looking down, and I'll pull up whatever posts were there prior. Oh boy, there we go. See if I can lower this a little bit so you can see a little bit better and you can see what I'm doing. Okay. So you guys should have a pretty decent view of the lab setup. And let's take a look at any questions you guys may have had. Love you guys too. The table, again, you guys can watch this. The table is actually written in the textbook, and I'll post what the page looks like when I post what the questions are. So you can worry about copying the table later. Since this is recorded, you can always go back when you're viewing the table and pause it and copy the data then. Okay, that's one of the great parts about this being recorded. Daddy J's in the room with the dogs. So the table you can pause later and record, and I will, have, I'll be able to take a picture of the board later as well. So either way, you'll be able to see it. Now, the purpose of this lab is to identify how speed impacts collisions. Okay, so basically what we're going to do is we're going to look at different speeds. Okay, you have fast, medium, and slow. And you've already seen this setup before. So you guys were actually able to see that if we go from the highest notch, you're going to move the fastest. If you're from the second, you're at a middle speed. And if you're moving from the lowest notch, you're at the lowest speed. So if you're looking at the highest notch, and we're going to be doing 5 trials of each, what I did here was I made a 5-centimeter distance from the edge of the ramp to the wooden block, and that's actually where I put my tape measure. And I put the edge of the block at the beginning of the tape measure. Okay? So we're going to start with height A, and we're going to do 5 trials with height A. So this is the greatest speed. Okay? So at height A, we'll see that as a result of the collision, we did move the block, and the block moved 13.4 centimeters. Okay? Oh, forgot my marker. So the block moved 13.4 centimeters. We're going to do 4 more trials, and I'll do this relatively quickly. Okay, now we're actually looking here at 12.9 centimeters. And then here we're looking at 12.8. Wow, we only made it to 12.5 this time. And we are back to 12.8. And that is the end of trial A. Okay? Now, I'm just seeing if there were any other questions. The analysis questions, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up the EDSB assignments so that when you log into EDSB to do your homework, you'll be able to click on the assignment and enter the assignment in EDSB. So instead of you having to log it in a notebook, it will be logged digitally, and then we can deal with that later. Okay? All right, so looking at height B now, this is the medium speed. Okay, we have moved 8.1 centimeters. That's 8.2. We're pretty consistent here. Here we're at 7.7. We're looking at 7.7 again. And then, what about the analysis questions for activity 75? No, they're not due tomorrow. I'm not checking any homework this week. So we have one more trial. And we got to 7.5 this time. Okay. My dogs were messing with the track, so I had to readjust it. So I'm making sure there's nothing on it because they decided they wanted to come play with my equipment while I was gone this morning. Okay, let's see. We are now starting from height C. And we moved a whopping 4.9 centimeters. $4.5. $4.5. I'm sorry, that says 5.3. Went kind of far this time. And that is 5 on the dot. All right. So let's go ahead. I'm going to adjust the camera now so that we can look at the board. Ad speed's back up. Ad speed was only down for part of the day yesterday because so many people were logging in, they kind of just crashed the system. This is activity, it says it right there, activity 76, speed and collisions. Okay. All right. I'm adjusting the camera so that it makes sense. Okay, don't worry about EDSB today. I'm not checking homework this week. Don't stress out. On what? Are you looking at the tape perhaps? I had to tape down everything. All right, so this is the data. Okay. I'm trying to adjust the camera so that it makes sense. There we go. All right. So looking at the data, and of course I left my phone over there in my rush. So we can take the averages, 13.4, 12.9, 12.8, 12.5, and 5.8. Give me 1 second so I can do the averages. Okay, so our average distance, or our average speed, excuse me, or I'm sorry, it is distance, is 12.88 centimeters. For the second one, it was 8.1 plus 8.2, 7.7 plus 7.7 plus 0.5, 7.84, 9 plus 4.84 centimeters. Okay, so that's our, so as we, the higher up that we were on the ramp, okay, the greater the distance. In other words, the higher up, the more of a head start. The more of a head lower, it didn't have as much momentum, so it pushed the cart a little bit less. And for C, it was moving the slowest, and as a result, it pushed the cart the least. Now, the important information to look at, yesterday I had on a Wonder Woman shirt. So the important information to know here is what we're doing is we're causing a collision between the cart and the wooden block. That collision, it caused a change in movement based on how fast the cart was going. Okay, the greater the speed, the greater the impact, and the further the cart moves. So that's what's important to understand in terms of collisions. The faster the cart is moving, the greater the speed, the greater the speed, the greater the impact force, and that is translated to a greater distance that the cart moves. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Should make sense, but I want you to understand that because you're understanding the relationship between the speed of a cart and the movement between them, the collision force between them. Okay, so this translates into what we were talking about when we were talking about car accidents. If you are involved in a car accident, okay, the faster the car is moving, the greater the impact. The greater the impact, the worse the collision. Okay, the more damage is done to the vehicle, and the more you are physically injured if you happen to be in the vehicle. Okay, so if you have any questions, now is the time to ask. I'm going to move this back a little bit so that it can sit where it normally sits.